go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing.
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie, and today I put together 20 of my favorite coastal 4th of July DIYs for you. Everything is Dollar Tree, coastal, and patriotic. So let's get started with the first DIY. I went to Dollar Tree and picked up 6 small signs, all the same size with frames. Basically, I got the wood frame because I thought that would be great for this project. But if you can't find 6 of the same color, you could always paint the frames. But if you can find them the same color and it works, then it's going to save you a little bit of work. I also picked up 5 of those little Lego base plates. I was trying to determine if I wanted them to like kind of sit in the back of it or if I wanted them to be on the front. And I decided to actually just use them on the front. So I'm just going to take all the packaging off of these. They have little bump outs on them. I happened to find 6 frames that were all the same. But again, really the only thing you're going to be able to see is the frame. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a really unique coastal American flag DIY. This is going to make a really cool sign. So going to lay it out like that, 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom. Now for the last one, we only did 5 of the Lego blocks. I'm going to use one of these little plastic tiles from the Dollar Tree, and just using one of those little Lego base plates as a template, we're just going to cut that down to size. I wanted something that had a different texture than the Legos, and I kind of liked this pattern, but honestly, if it's different, it's gonna look better because I'm going for lots of textures on this, so that's gonna have a completely different texture than the Lego plates. Now, I did notice that you could kind of see the, wallpaper, kind of like flowery stuff on the back of the pictures on the sides of my white plates, and I really did not want you to be able to see that. So I'm just going to go around and just paint the edges of the inside with white. I probably painted a little more than I needed to, but I didn't want you to be able to see that paper through there, and so that's what I did. I just taped off all the frames though because I wanted to make sure that I didn't get any paint on the side. So we have 5 of them. We painted white corners and sides. Now it's time to paint the Legos. I thought this would be a really fun texture, and I'd never seen anybody craft with these before. So I just used some Dollar Tree painter's tape. I do a stripe all the way across, and then I used a piece for a spacer to figure out the second row. But these 2 are going to be on the top, so they'll be next to each other. And then I'm just going in there with some crimson red chalk paint. It doesn't matter if it's chalk paint or not. I'm just looking for red, and I had a great color. And I'm going to go ahead and just start putting some stripes on there. Now, the bottom stripe is definitely a lot thinner, but that's okay because we'll continue that pattern down on the next row of the flag with the remaining 3 Lego bricks. So we have the red bumpy texture, and then we have the white stripes on there, which are also a bumpy texture. And so those will sit inside the 2 frames on the top, and then we need to do 3 of them for the bottom. I was lucky enough to find white ones, but if you can't find the colors that you want, like the white ones, you could always paint them all. And so I continued that stripe from the first one by kind of just doing a half of a stripe. And then did painter's tape all the way across, and again just using a piece of painter's tape for a spacer in between. So we're going to continue that red stripe from the top of our flag down here on the bottom. And I did use a brush on the Lego to make sure that I could get down in between all the little pegs on the Lego and make sure I get pretty good coverage on those. And this is going to be a flag that you can display on the wall, or you can display it on a shelf. It turned out so cute. So just removing all of our painter's tape, and there is the rest of our stripes. Now we need to work on that top part, the little corner where it's going to be blue with stars, but we're going to do a coastal take on this. I'm using agave chalk paint, just anything a light blue, and we are just painting over that little piece of adhesive tile for that one. And instead of a navy background, I thought we would do like that light blue color. Now just using hot glue, we're just gonna glue all of the little Lego plates to the back of the signs. Like that. And here is this one. It does come apart a little bit if you cut those tiles. So I just glued it back down with some tacky glue and then just gonna put that down inside that frame. Now, of course I wanted to stress it because I wanted to give that coastal look. And the red parts of the flag are definitely going to be exposed for this. So I'm going to go ahead and distress them to try to bring out all that texture just by kind of going over them with some of ivory and kind of wiping off the excess with a baby wipe. Now, if you wanted crisp lines on yours, you wouldn't want to do the distressing, but I like to distress with like ivory for like a coastal farmhouse feel. And I think it really brought out the texture on that red and showed like what kind of a cool material that we were working with for this flag. Now I got it like all distressed. I'm also going to distress like the blue part up there, and I wasn't totally happy with it just being like, you know, like a Lego flag. And I thought we could make it look like even more coastal. I definitely want to keep the red Legos, but you'll see what I do with the white stripes to make them a little bit more coastal. Now, instead of stars for the top of our flag, we're going to use a Dollar Tree starfish. I'm just going to glue that on to the top part with some Dollar Tree glue. And of course, we're going to use a starfish for our coastal 4th of July flag. It looks so cute up there. And this is what we're going to use, some of that white nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. I thought this would be a really fun texture to do the white stripes. I know they're already white, but I just, again, wanted to add something, another coastal little feature, and it's going to be white too, so I think this turned out really good. So basically, I just cut down the rope to size, and I'm using the wider white rope from the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to need about 2 of those for each stripe on our flag. So I'm just going to get some heavy duty scissors and cut through there. A lot of you guys have asked me what kind of scissors I use to cut through the Dollar Tree rope. These are just KitchenAid kitchen scissors. And you know, they work, but sometimes just whatever sharp scissors you have is going to work better. So sometimes like my really sharp scissors that I've recently purchased at the Dollar Tree or something like that will cut even better than the KitchenAid ones. You're just going to have to get something that's going to cut all the way through it, kind of saw through it. And again, this was the rope we used. So I cut down 4 pieces for each one of those 5 little parts of our flag. And then we are just going to use hot glue to attach those down. And I'm really glad I did this at the end of this project. I really think this gave them like a way more coastal feel, and it made it seem less like a Lego piece that you would see like at a Legoland or something like that. But it was really fun crafting with the Lego little tiles. I'll probably have to do that again. I really like to find anything from the Dollar Tree that's gonna give my DIY like a lot of texture. So towards the end, I just start gluing 2 at a time to make it more efficient there, and just gluing down the rest of our stripes. Now the only thing I have left to do on this project is to attach all 6 of my frames together to form that fun coastal flag. And I always like DIYing with flags for 4th of July. So patriotic, and you can do so many creative things. Give it your own little spin. So I'm going to start by putting these together. I was thinking they might need a little bit of reinforcement. I don't know though, like the frames are pretty square and solid. So we can probably just get away with a few popsicle sticks on the back to secure those. Kind of like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue them together. I'm just going to use hot glue. It's going to be quick and fast. I use Gorilla Glue hot glue. It works pretty well. If I were doing this an outdoor project, I might choose a different kind of glue, but this is going to be inside, so I think it's going to be fine. So I glue 2 together and 2 together and 2 together, and then I glue the rows together here. Just a little bit of hot glue. Not so much that it's going to seep out and be seen, but enough to hold them together. And that's one thing I love about these kind of signs from the Dollar Tree is that you're not going to have to worry about them being different sizes. They are pretty square, but I am just going to reinforce them a little bit with just some popsicle sticks on the back to make sure this is a permanent flag DIY that we can use every year. And I love it. It's one of my very favorites. And as you can see, we're like at a different angle and using my iPhone. This was back when I very first started my YouTube channel, and I didn't even have a camera yet. But here it is. Here is my coastal flag. I think it's so fun. What do you guys think about this? My little Lego and rope coastal flag DIY. I love it. It's definitely unique. I have never seen another one like it. Okay, are you guys ready for another Coastal Patriotic DIY? We're gonna make 3 here. We're gonna use some of this foam from the Dollar Tree, just the long pieces that are all attached, not the ones that are cut up. I draw a little square on the top, and using like my little putty knife from the Dollar Tree, I'm gonna just go ahead and shave that off at a diagonal like that. What I wanna do is change these little foam blocks into buoys. I wanted to make like 3 different like patriotic buoys that I can use for decorating. And I thought this would be way easier than making them out of wood. So I did that on all 4 sides of my little square, just shaving that down, trying to get that like fairly even. It's not going to be perfect, but you can get it pretty close. And then you can also sand that foam. This is that real soft foam from the Dollar Tree. I was trying to square up like the bottom corners there a little bit. But again, if you want it to look like an old buoy, like the less perfect it is, probably the better. And that's pretty much going to be the shape of this. But again, I wanted to do 3 of these. So we're going to go ahead and have 2 more to cut down as well. I was thinking they're going to need a hole. So I just use a dowel from the Dollar Tree and push it through the foam and create a hole there. Super easy. Again, the foam is going to be just way more easier because I know you can make these out of wood, but that would be a lot of cutting and with a saw. So first buoy is done, so I want to do the same thing with the other 2 by making a square on the top. This one I think I made my square a little bit larger on this one to try to give myself a little bit of room in case I needed to trim it up a little bit. But again, just shaving down, trying to get like the 4 sides like relatively even. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but you definitely can clean it up a little bit with a sanding sponge from the Dollar Tree. And again, I'm just going to poke a hole through there for our rope. And 1 more buoy. I'm going to paint these like kind of like traditional buoys. I'm going to do them all different though, so they'll all kind of coordinate together. And but also I'm going to give them like a slight patriotic feel, using some patriotic colors and numbers and stuff like that. So just shaved down the 3rd one exactly the same way and gave it a quick sand. Now, I was worried that if I just tried to paint like directly on that foam, it wasn't going to stick. So I do go over it with a big coat of Mod Podge first because I wanted to try to seal that like that foam, you know, has that kind of like flaky feel. I kind of wanted to, you know, seal that so I would kind of have a surface to paint. And so that's what I'm using. It's just Mod Podge, just kind of going all over with a foam brush to try to seal that. And I think that did do the job because I was able to paint them. I did have some issues painting them because it was still very kind of like delicate to work with at this point. One thing that's great about making a foam buoy though is that it's going to be very lightweight, so it's going to be really easy to hang. And I think these would kind of hold up inside, outdoors, wherever you want to use them. So I'm just using that Mod Podge on all three, and we're just sealing all over the sides. I'm using the matte Mod Podge, but you could totally use whatever you have. And I was thinking, you know, I would like to do like some buoys, like the round ball buoys, but I've never really found anything at the Dollar Tree. Like, they don't have like foam balls that big, and I think like playground balls really wouldn't work for that. So I've been trying to brainstorm something I could do, like, so I could make like a chain of the round ones. That would be really cool to do as well. So just sealing up the third one, and then we can get started painting these little buoys. I also sealed the bottom, kind of all of the surfaces. Now I'm going to use chalk paint. I thought that might stick better. I don't know if it really matters though. But what we're going to do is go over the buoys, and I'm going to go ahead and paint them all ivory. So I just kind of start out a couple sides at a time so that can start drying. And since I have three of them, I can kind of alternate which one that we're painting. So I do two sides, I do the top and the bottom, and then I move on to the next one to kind of make it just more efficient. I want to use like the same colors that we used on our flag. So I want to use red, white, and blue, but for blue I want to use kind of like a coastal beachy blue. So once it gets dry, I go ahead and paint the other two sides, and it gives you that cool like texture where you can see kind of some of the holes there in the foam. That's just going to make it look more realistic, more like an old buoy. And I do go over it with a second coat of ivory just to make sure I'm covering up like all of that light green foam to make them look a little bit better. So once they're all ivory, we can start taping them off. Now, my mistake was probably that I used painter's tape that was a little too good. This is some really good painter's tape, and because what it did is it does take some of the paint off. So be careful if you're using painter's tape. I use this because it's really sticky, but maybe I should have used some of the Dollar Tree painter's tape. It might be less sticky. But for this one, I wanted to do stripes, like the flag stripes, right? So I am just pinching that on the corners, trying to get straight lines all the way across so that I can cover up the white stripes, and then we can go in and paint like red stripes on this buoy. And they don't have to be perfect, just similar. So that's our first one. Now this one, I thought we would do something a little different. So about like halfway down, I'm just gonna tape across. So we can kind of like color block this one a little bit. And then I decided to add stripes to the bottom of it, but just like one right there in the middle. Now this one, I definitely want to color block this one. So kind of like 2/3 of the way down, I'm putting a stripe on this one of the painter's tape, and you'll see what I mean by color blocking these. Now I'm going in with that crimson red chalk paint again, and we are going to go paint stripes. So just going over the buoy on all the sides, we're just going to paint over the painter's tape and give some stripes to these buoys. So the first one is the one with all of the stripes. Now the next one I kind of wanted to do a little bit different. I decided I wanted to do a red top on this buoy. So I'm just painting the top of this one red and stopping at the painter's tape. Then I wanted it to have like a white stripe and then another red stripe, which is why I taped it off like that. And then leave the bottom part of it that ivory color. And for the last one, we wanted just a simple color block. So I did the top of the last one, so we'll do the bottom of this one, like in the bright red. Just by painting the bottom and all four sides underneath the tape. And again, I do want to do these red, white, and blue. They're probably going to have a little bit more red on them than blue, but that's okay. That's kind of how a flag is, right? So that looks pretty good. And we can start painting like the blue part of the buoys. This one I wanted to do color block, so we're gonna do the entire top of this buoy in that like light blue agave color of chalk paint. Again, definitely I use chalk paint on these, but I don't know if it's really necessary. You can probably get away with acrylic paint on these. I was just trying to paint with something that was going to be a little stickier to stick to that foam. And then we paint the bottom of this one blue. And that first one is just red and white, so no blue on that one. And I think that's going to work. So I gave them a good dry, but I was careful. I did not want to melt the foam. And then this is kind of when I had some issues with this project because, as you can see, it started out kind of good, but like right here, like the tape started taking off the paint. And even though it was a really sticky, like painter's tape, it did bleed too. So I'm gonna go ahead and take off all of the painter's tape and see what kind of damage we have. Now, you could kind of leave the damage because it does make them look older and more realistic like a buoy, but mine are pretty rough at this point. So I do go in and we're just gonna try touching these up a little bit by touching up like our white stripes, anywhere where you could see like some of the green foam through them, and try to cover up a little bit of the bleeding as well. Again, I wasn't going for perfect, but I did want it to look like it had a little bit of a pattern. So if you're going to use painter's tape, be careful. Definitely don't do what I did. Okay, so I wanted to put a 4 on there, so I just kind of used like a bigger brush to kind of paint a 4 on there. I got it on there and wasn't a huge fan of how it looked, so I did flip it over and try to paint another little 4 on there that I liked a little bit better, a little bit finer. But the 4 is for the 4th of July. That's basically going to be any of the text on there. But you could add more numbers. You could do like a 7-2 for July, right? Now that I have them all painted the colors that I want, I am going in and distressing them with ivory. So, you know, that is going to help disguise any of the paint issues that we might have had. But it's also going to give them that like rustic feel that we definitely want them to have. So I just go around like all the edges, and I'm just using like a chunky brush from the Dollar Tree and a little bit of ivory for that. And even though we had some issues painting these, I think they turned out really cool and I absolutely love them. Now to hang them, I'm just going to use some of that thinner brown nautical rope from the Dollar Tree and string them in that hole we made earlier. Just going to try to make sure I get it large enough that my rope will fit through there. You can also kind of use the dowel to help push your rope through there, kind of feeding it through a little bit. Just a matter of getting your hole large enough there. And then I'm just going to cut off a piece of that rope long enough to make a nice hanger and tie that off. I am going ahead and stringing them on the same rope, but I am going to cut it into like individual pieces. As you'll see, wasn't sure if I wanted to tie them all up together or if I wanted them hanging separately with the rope. And I did decide that I did want them hanging separately with the rope. But for now, I'm just stringing them through there, just making sure that I got the hole large enough. And aren't these fun? Now you could paint these in any kind of colors, but this is just a nautical or coastal version that's also a little bit patriotic. So I cut one off that's long enough, and then I just kind of do an overhead knot there on the top to make a hanger and pull that tight, and I think that looks really cool. Now I hang mine, but you could also sit them on a counter with the ropes kind of hanging down like that. I think these would look really cute hanging outside, like along a fence or something like that too. That would be really cute. And so I do the same thing on all 3 of them, is just I tie them in a knot and cut off the excess rope. And I just love how these turned out. I've used them. This is going to be my third 4th of July using these, and I think they look great. I love the fact that we made them like different like patterns and the little 4 on there for the 4th of July. What do you guys think about those buoys? I love them. Okay, are you ready for another coastal patriotic decoration? I'm going to use 3 of these little wood trays from the Dollar Tree. I got the ones with the star cutouts because, of course, 4th of July. And I thought we could do a really like fun coastal book stack for 4th of July. So using these because they're larger than what you're normally going to see with like a Dollar Tree DIY book stack. Now I'm using that same agave color of blue for my red, white, and blue. We're going to do a red book, a white book, and a blue book. And they're going to be books because I'm just going to kind of display them upside down like that. And so I just paint the sides of this one agave with that chalk paint. I don't really have to cover the top because it is going to be a book stack. And so you're not going to be able to see it. But I did kind of just go around the edges. So that if they shifted a little bit, you'd be able to still see the blue. Now on to the next tray, I'm going to use white chalk paint, and we're going to go over that one the same way. Now, if you can't find the little wood trays with the star cutouts, you could use any of them. You could use the ones with just the slats on the side. But again, 4th of July, so I was looking for stars. So try to get 3 of these with the little star cutouts. Shouldn't be too hard to find. It's a pretty basic item at Dollar Tree. And I do the same thing. I paint all 4 sides and then just around the edges on the white book. Now for the third one, I want to paint it red, but I also want to paint it to look like an American flag. So I'm going to use some painter's tape here at the top, and we are going to go ahead and just mark off like a little corner there. That's where going to be like the star part of our flag will be. Just going to go ahead and block that off so we don't get any paint on that. And then I'm just going to go in and start painting this book red. So I just start with the 4 sides. We're going to paint those red. And this is that crimson chalk paint, nice bright red color. And then I go over the entire top because I blocked off that one area that I want to leave for the flag. But I thought I'd go ahead and get the red on there for the red stripes of the flag. Now for those red stripes, I just went in and dried the top of that top book stack. And I'm going to use some of the skinnier painter's tape because I just kind of wanted like more stripes on this than to use the thicker Dollar Tree painter's tape. And so I'm just going to kind of space those out. I'm trying to determine where my stripe needs to be. I want my like top stripe or my bottom stripe to be red to kind of blend in with the side of the book. And so I kind of space mine out exactly how I want that to be. Kind of want red on the bottom, red on the top. So that's how I mapped that out with the stripes. So we're going to have 3 white stripes in between. So I go in with that white chalk paint and we're going to paint those stripes on. Now, since the top book is going to be exposed, I thought it would be really cute for the cover just to have a simple little flag pattern. And I think this turned out really cute. Now, I definitely probably needed to use the white chalk paint to cover that bright red, but I do go over it with a couple of coats to kind of mask that because covering red is usually not too easy. But I think that looks pretty good. I can't really see the red shining through that anymore. So we're going to give that a quick dry and remove our painter's tape. Luckily, these lines are way smoother on the wood than they were on the foam. And they turned out really nicely. So just making sure it is dry enough. You have to get it mostly dry before you remove the tape. But you don't want it to stick either. So that looks pretty good. Now we can go ahead and take off the little square here that we left for the top of the flag. Take off the tape there as well. And make sure like the area right around the square is good and dry so we can use painter's tape there as well to protect the red and the white striped areas now so we can paint the little blue part of our flag. I also tape off the sides just to make sure. And for the blue, again, I'm using that agave color. I love doing like your own kind of color scheme, making things coastal and beachy. It's always fun. So I paint that part, that light blue. And then we'll also add stars to our little flag as well. So that looks pretty good. We're going to go ahead and remove all of that painter's tape. And definitely the cutest book of them all. Now, you know me, I don't want just a star. I want starfish. And so I had some of these little sea creatures, stencils from the Dollar Tree with the little starfish. And so I'm going to paint my little white like stars on there as starfish. But honestly, I don't think you're going to be able to tell. You can kind of even draw a star on there with white paint pen. It's going to look really similar. But I was going for it. I was going for my coastal theme here. So I used my stencil, and I could get about 4 starfish on here. As you can see, the stencil, not perfect. I am getting a little bit of paint on there in areas I don't want to. Trying to clean those up with a baby wipe as I go. Of course, I always distress everything, so not too worried about it at this point. But I think 4 stars is all we're going to be able to fit on this one. And that's how I want to stack them. The red flag one on top, the white one, and then the blue one. Of course, distressing. So I'm going to distress mine a couple ways. I go in there with some ivory chalk paint, kind of distress all over, to give that coastal farmhouse vibe, wiping off the excess with a baby wipe. But I'm also going to go in there and distress it with some antique wax by Waverly to kind of give it some more character and make it kind of look old as well. I tried to heavily distress 3 sides to make them kind of look kind of like book pages, if you will. More so than it's going to be the binding on this side where we'll add some words. So once I get the ivory, again, I go over it with some antique wax by Waverly, kind of going over all of the sides and corners, and just giving it a light distress. I do go in there to kind of make it kind of look a little bit like it's got book covers with the original color, just to give it a little bit more character too. We're going to do the same thing here with the blue one. It's going to be easier because we really just have to distress the sides. So I distress 3 sides heavy for like book pages and use the antique wax by Waverly, heavier on those as well. Kind of giving, a pattern that there's pages in there, and then going on with my original color to make it look like there is a cover. Now, the distressing with the ivory on the white is not going to be real obvious, but you're definitely going to be able to see the antique wax by Waverly more. So I distress that heavily on 3 sides. And I wipe off the excess with a baby wipe. Kind of giving me those pages. And then I go around the edges again, kind of making them white again to try to make it look like a book. Just a little detail I thought would be fun for this book stack. Now it's time to break out the Cricut. So I kind of measure how big these are, and we're going to cut out some vinyl to go over them. I also want to tie them together, and I thought some of this red like zigzag stripe and burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree would be really cute to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that down to size and kind of gather them together with this. Kind of doing this step first before my vinyl so I can kind of see exactly how much room I have left for letters for the side of my little books. And I'm just going to hot glue that ribbon to itself there on the bottom. And that is going to keep the whole project together and make them look like they're tied up. But I do really want them to have like a tied up feel, so I'm not just going to use that ribbon. I'm also going to use some of that thin Dollar Tree twine, and we're just going to wrap those around that as well, just to give a little bit more character to that. Kind of like that. So I'm just wrapping them around, kind of giving it a bundled feel until I'm happy with it, and then we can tie this off. I decided to tie it right here where you can see it, right here in the front. and I just knot it and then just simply like tie a little bow on there just for a little bit of character. I also have some of those clothespins from the Shore Living line, so I thought that would be fun to decorate it with too. So one of the little wood seahorses, and I can just simply clip that over my bow here. Just a little coastal touch to this. Now we have the coastal colors, so now I wanted a coastal saying on the side of the book. So I'm going to use my Cricut and some vinyl, and we're just going to cut out letters for this. I chose to do white for the red and the blue book. And I'm going to have it say from sea to shining sea, because of course that's patriotic, but of course it's also coastal. Sometimes with the skinny font, which is what I'm using, I downloaded that font on defont.com. It can be a little bit challenging to read, but I think we can make it work. I'm going to have it say from sea on the top book, and then sea on the bottom book, and then to shining. I did that in red, and I actually used Dollar Tree vinyl on that. I was a little worried, but we got it to work here. And again, I just used the skinny font for that, just measuring it so that it would fit exactly on the side of the books. And I'm using that paper, transfer paper. I get that on Amazon. That's always available in my shop below. I love it. It is my favorite transfer paper for vinyl, especially for a lettering like this. So we're going to start with the middle book first. I kind of want to align everything to the left. So I'm going to put to shining here. Definitely had to do the red, so we have the contrast against the white book. And then we can go ahead and decorate the little sides of the other two books. I don't know, that red one was, this one was really fighting me on the letters, but I was able to salvage it and get them all on there. And I love it. I love that font. It's very similar to the Ray Dunn font. And I use that a lot in my home. So there it is. We have our little patriotic and coastal book stack. I think it is so much fun. I love the little flag on top and the little coastal touches, like the little seahorse, the from sea to shining sea. And I think I like that it's big project. It's not like the little tiny box that like replicates like 3 little books. It's a bigger DIY. Okay, are you ready for another one? This DIY is really fun. We are using some of those microfiber dusting pads or mop pads from the Dollar Tree, one of these chalkboard signs. I had a long piece of wood from a sign that kind of fell apart, so kind of using a trash to treasure on that, and a knob from a Walmart. Now, I want to use the back, and of course the label on this is usually the only challenging thing, and so I do have to use a little Goo Gone to clean off the back of this chalkboard, but I love DIYing with these from Dollar Tree because they are nice and flat, not bowed, and they're a nice big size as well. What I want to do is make this sign into an Uncle Sam gnome. So I go over the black chalkboard with just some ivory chalk paint, trying to get as good a coverage as I can. I want my giant Uncle Sam to have like a red and white striped hat. So once I get the black covered, I think we're good to go. Now for the next piece, I just had this. This was, I have no idea, some kind of decor piece that fell apart and I saved it. But you could totally use the craft wood from the Dollar Tree, or you could also use one of those long, chunky signs that are about the same size from Dollar Tree for this part of the hat. I just wanted something to make a brim of the hat, and so I paint the top of that white to cover that up. Now it's time for stripes. So I'm just going to use some Dollar Tree painter's tape, and we're just going to tape off some vertical stripes on this. And I'm just going to use little pieces of the tape for spacers so we can make sure that I get these little stripes straight on here. Just moving it as I go. And now we can just go on here and paint some red stripes. I'm using that crimson red chalk paint and just going all the way down. I want most of the sign to be the hat. So a long rectangular hat, which is kind of why I went with that size of a sign. Now for the brim of the hat, I thought we'd do something fun. I wanted to see if I could use some of these little stickers from the Dollar Tree instead of my Cricut to kind of give you guys another option of how you could do stars on your projects. And it worked. I think it was definitely more work than if I would use my Cricut. But what I do is I just peel off the backing and I'm cutting them into strips of the little stars. And then I'm going to use transfer paper to put them on there, kind of like I would do with Cricut vinyl. So I'm just kind of lining those up, one right on top of each other, so we can have like 2 rows of stars. Now, that way it's going to leave the white stars on there when I go to paint this. Need a few more, so I'm going to do a few more rows here. And then I can paint over that, and then I can just weed off all of the little star stickers, leaving the little white stickers below. I guess you could do it the reverse way too, where you could use the backing to create a stencil. But I had already painted it white, so I wanted white stars, so we're just going to do it this way. And it did work. I just trying to make sure that they are all good and down, and then I just have to weed them all off. That was probably the only hard part. So again, I'm using agave blue for a light beachy blue instead of a traditional navy. But if you wanted to do traditional colors for yours, you totally could. But of course, I want mine to be a beachy little Uncle Sam, because we're doing coastal patriotic here. And then just using my weeder, I am just going to weed all those off. So that was probably the only time-consuming part. It did work. I don't know if I would do it again, but I was just trying to show you guys an option, because I know like not all of you guys do have Cricuts. And it's just a great way to get a star pattern on something for the 4th of July. We'll speed that way up. I'm also going to kind of rough it up a little bit with my sandpaper, kind of distress the edges. It was already red, so I left the sides red. And that kind of goes with the theme. I take off the painter's tape here on my Uncle Sam hat. Did have a little bit of crazy bleeding going on down here at the bottom, but this is going to be the bottom of my hat, and so a lot of that's going to be covered anyway, but I am touching up any areas that I think might be visible. I want to attach a long beard to the Uncle Sam hat and then have the brim of the hat, and I kind of want to make it like a gonk or a gnome where you only see the nose, not the eyes. So of course I distressed it. I distressed it with ivory all over just to give that coastal farmhouse vibe and kind of make it look a little bit roughed up. Now for the nose, I'm going to use a cabinet knob that I got really cheap at Dollar Tree. I'm just kind of putting my board up on some blocks here so that I can drill through that and not go through my silicone mat. But I'm just going to put like, you know, like a little cabinet doorknob on there for the nose. But, you know, you could totally use like a big wood bead or anything round for the nose. I thought this would be a fun little touch. And since it's already got a screw on the back, I might as well just use that to attach it to my sign. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm feeding the screw through the back and attaching the little knob on top. Now, the screw that came with my knob was like way too big, so I switched it out for a smaller one that I happened to have, and that worked out perfectly. So I think this is the only time I've used a cabinet knob for a gnome nose, but it worked out really well. Now here is the brim of the hat. I'm just making sure that's going to fit on there, but we probably should get started on the little gnome or gonk beard. We are using 2 of the microfiber mop heads from the cleaning aisle at the Dollar Tree, and I want to kind of sandwich them kind of around our little nose like that, hanging them down vertically to make a large gnome beard. This actually turned out to be a pretty large piece, but it's so much fun. I really love it for 4th of July. So I'm just going to attach the microfiber mop head to the bottom of the chalkboard with some hot glue, and it worked out perfectly for the size of this sign, the width of my beard, and since it's 2 pieces, I could just sandwich the little nose right in between. like that. Now, I don't want like the beard to be separated, and so I thought I could use something to give it a little structure in the back and make sure the two mop heads stay together. So I'm just using some white cardstock that I had, and I just kind of cut that down to size and hot glue that to the back, and that way it's going to keep both the mop heads together. There won't be any gapping and give a little bit of structure to that beard. So cute. It's very square though, so we're gonna like kind of make it pointy, kind of like I think like an Uncle Sam beard would be, just by cutting that mop head. Now when you do cut those mop heads, you do get a little bit of shedding there. I'm just gonna trim it up and make it look nice. And then I'm gonna go ahead on the other side and cut that into a point too. And it really made it look more like an Uncle Sam beard and less like just a big fluffy square. And I just trim it until I'm happy with that little gnome. I'm not gonna do much else to his beard. I do wanna put the brim of the hat over the top of his beard, which is gonna come down, covering his eyes and overlapping the microfiber mop head just a little bit. I thought I could kind of smush it down. I did find I left maybe a little bit too much beard to get all the way down to the little knob for the nose. So I'm just going to trim it up a little bit here on the top so that I have room to kind of smush this down and make it look like, because I didn't really want it to sit on top of it. I wanted to glue that to the actual sign. So just trimming it up as necessary where I can get that down enough. And I'm going to use wood glue to attach mine down. Don't know why I went so far over, but I also am going to use a combination of hot glue too. That way it's going to make it have a temporary hold and a long-term hold on the back of that. Now, the back of this is kind of a hot mess because I didn't really finish the back of the sign first. I do clean that up a little bit with a little cardstock that I had left over. But, you know, you could totally paint it back there too. And I am going to use a little starfish to finish off his hat. Then I thought like a little burlap ribbon to go around the base of his hat would be really cute too. I don't really want you to be able to see through it though, so I'm going to double it up to make it a little bit thicker. And this is just some burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. And I just glued two on the back where I can just wrap those around my side. Just a few more coastal touches, the burlap and the starfish from the Shore Living line. So I just pull that tight, and then we're just going to glue the other two on this side. Just something you have to be careful when you're working with the burlap. You're definitely going to be able to see through it. So sometimes you do have to layer them like that. I'm going to go ahead and use some twine to reattach my hanger, knotting that off in the front. And this is one of my favorite 4th of July decorations. It's so fun. There's the rest of my cardstock, and I'm just going to glue that to the back. It cleaned it up a little bit, but again, if you want yours to be beautiful back there, you might want to paint it or cover it with some contact paper. So the last step is just a starfish. Just going to kind of glue that over on one side of his hat. And the starfish can be a little tricky. You kind of got to see which rays are going to kind of be touching down. And those are the ones you're going to need to glue down. And there is our little coastal Uncle Sam with his little starfish and his stripes and stars. I think he's so cute and he's so fun. You could use this on your front door. I just use this as a wall hanging in my house. I love the colors. And I love his big fluffy beard. He's so cute. Okay, you ready for another DIY? This one's going to be really fun. We're going to use 2 of those wood boxes again from the Dollar Tree. This was one that I tried sublimation on, and so it was kind of just something I kind of needed to paint. So I'm going to go ahead and paint it and use it for part of this project. I want to make these 2 little boxes from the Dollar Tree into a coastal fireworks stand. Kind of like you would make like a lemonade stand or something, but I kind of want to design something that looked like a fireworks stand. I thought that'd be really fun. So the bottom one I kind of painted the bottom of, because that's going to be the front of the sign. This one I'm going to flip over and have it open so that I can put like fireworks and stuff inside of it. So it's going to have like, I need to just do the inside edges. I need to do the outside edges of that one, anywhere that one's going to be visible. But the bottom on that one is going to be the back of my fireworks stand, if I'm explaining that right. So I'm just kind of just painting where I need to paint, basically. Now, I want it to look like a fireworks stand, and so what I do is I'm going to measure like the inside of one of these boxes so I know how big it is. And I just went on Google search and like typed in, I think I typed in like fireworks on shelves or something like that. A fireworks store or something like that, and got a picture of fireworks on shelves. So it's going to give me a background that looks like there's all these shelves with fireworks on them. And I just printed that out on regular paper, and I made it the same size as the back of the tray. So I'm just Mod Podging that down, just a fun little detail to this fireworks stand, and was really easy to do. I am going to seal it in there with a couple coats of Mod Podge to make sure this isn't going to go anywhere. And that is a good start for the fireworks. I'm going to add more fireworks to it, of course, but I love that background. I think that really added a lot to this project. Now, this is how I plan to put it together. And that way it'll have like the front base. And then I thought I could use some of these jumbo popsicle sticks to kind of do the sides of the little fireworks stand. Like that, to kind of, you know, square it off a little bit. And then also doing one in, so I can do here a back panel. What I want to do is I kind of want to have like an awning come down. And so that is what that popsicle stick is going to be for. I'm going to paint those ivory, so there'll be a contrasting color, just the popsicle sticks. And then I also am going to use my Cricut for this one to make like words for the little side panels and also for the front of the fireworks stand. Now, I told you I was going to make a little awning for the top. And so I'm going to make that out of popsicle sticks as well. Instead of the jumbo, I think these are like the large ones. And I am just kind of cutting them down into size that I think is going to work well. I'm going to attach that one popsicle stick to the back, and then we'll have all of these little popsicle sticks like hanging over like a little awning. It really added to the effect. So I want to paint like half of them white, half of them red. And so I do like 3 in the ivory. And then I'm going to do 4 like in that crimson red. That way I can alternate them into little red and white stripes for the 4th of July. And this was definitely a really quick, easy way to do an awning for a DIY like this. And I love the vibe it gave it. So I'm also going to measure the popsicle sticks because, again, I said I was going to make words for all of this. And that is exactly what I did. I actually made my words go vertical with my Cricut. And I'm just using Dollar Tree red Cricut vinyl. And I'm going to have one side say sparklers and one side say rockets. I thought that'd be really fun. So just using some transfer paper, we're going to cut those apart. Again, I was using the Dollar Tree vinyl. It came off all on its own, but hey, at least it's all together, right? And we'll put rockets on that side and sparklers on this side. Not a fan of the Dollar Tree vinyl. I like it for other crafting, but for actual Cricut projects like this, as you can see, it's kind of more of a headache than it's worth. But we made it work. And now we can start putting this thing together. So sparklers on one side, rockets on the other. And then the front panel here, which I also want to add words to. I do go over and seal that vinyl down just because it was being, kind of iffy whether it was going to stay down with a little bit of Mod Podge. And then I go in with my Cricut again, and we are going to make a stencil. So I'm going to use some stencil vinyl, and we are going to use that to make stencils to do like a hand-painted front to the fireworks sign. And I am going to make it say Beachside Fireworks. Here where I live, you either live, you live beachside or you live in town, So I'm going to have like Beachside be in cursive, and then fireworks like in a big bold font. And you guys know I love using my Cricut to make stencils. It's one of the best parts. So we're just going to line those up on the sign and hand paint those onto the front of the sign to kind of personalize the little fireworks stand. I always like to use a little extra painter's tape as well to make sure that I don't go too crazy, but I'm just using some stencil daubers from the Dollar Tree and stenciling that on. We're going to do Beachside in the ivory, and then we're going to do the fireworks in bright red, so we still have our red, white, and light blue theme for this. I can't remember, I don't know if I saved what fonts these were, but I will try to find them. If I do, I'll put them in the description below. I don't think I actually saved them in Cricut. And so here's the fireworks that we're going to paint bright red. And again, you could just attach the vinyl for the words on this. I always think it looks a little bit more high-end when you paint it, but definitely for the smaller words that we did on the side, using the actual vinyl was definitely faster. So that looks really good. I like those colors together. I was going back and forth about what to make that say, but I think Beachside Fireworks is perfect. Now I'm going to go in and lightly distress all over with a little bit of ivory to give it that coastal vibe that I love. And kind of wipe off any excess with a baby wipe. Now I'm going to distress the top too, just to kind of make it match. You can see I didn't paint the top just because I knew I was going to be attaching an awning to the top. And I usually don't want to paint areas that I know I'm going to need to glue. So I think we finally came to the point where we can start putting this little fireworks stand together. So this is how I'm going to build the awning. I'm going to take that jumbo popsicle stick that we cut down to size, and we're going to attach it here to the back. I was trying to determine if I needed to use like a smaller popsicle stick as a brace, but I decided I didn't really need to. I just use a bead of hot glue along the bottom edge, and then we're going to stick that jumbo popsicle stick up like that, so the back of the tray will be higher so that I can have my awning kind of down at an angle. And we're going to alternate the red and white popsicle sticks that we cut down to size like that, so they'll kind of overlap the top of the fireworks stand. And I think that's going to work. So we can just use hot glue and start gluing those on straight across, alternating red and white. I just do a little hot glue on the popsicle stick on the top and a little hot glue on the bottom. They're so lightweight, they're very easy to glue on. And isn't that cute? I think that made a perfect little patriotic awning for this little fireworks stand. Now it's time to put it together. I'm going to use some wood glue and some hot glue to make it a little bit stronger, and just sit that together right on top. Now we had those little side panels that we made too with the popsicle sticks that say rockets and sparklers that are going to kind of box that in a little bit. And we can glue those on as well. And pretty much the fireworks stand is complete, but I wanted to take it up a notch and make it even more special. So we're going to make fireworks to sit on the counter of our little fireworks stand. So what I did is, again, I went online and tried to find like retro or antique, like, you know, firework packages like the Black Cat, and I just printed out some really small images of like what little fireworks would look like. And then I just had some little bamboo sticks. You can use popsicle sticks, whatever you've got, something thin enough to cut down. And then I just cut down little wood pieces the same size as the little fireworks. And so when you look at them, they have great details. They look like little packages of like firecrackers. And so I did 2 of this one, and I did like 2 of the Black Cat ones. Probably the hardest part was just trying to get the images sized down enough for this. But this was really fun to do. And that wood is thin enough that I can just cut it to size. Just trimming them up, making them look a little bit better. And we can lay those on the counter. Now, I also got some of these like longer wood beads from the Dollar Tree. And I thought I would combine them with some toothpicks to make like some little colorful bottle rockets for our fireworks stand as well. So basically think miniature is what we're doing with this one. I picked out these long wood beads because I thought that would give me kind of the shape of a bottle rocket, right? If I cut down the toothpicks a little bit and attach those together. And then I can go back and even cover those with some paper. That's going to make them look even more patriotic. I just had some scrapbook paper. I think this was from the Dollar Tree even. And just some like red and white patterns. And I just wrapped that around them to kind of make them look like bottle rockets. And that was really fun. Anytime I can make a little miniatures like this for my craft, they really make me smile. So we're going to do like a red and white chevron pattern on this one. And just kind of leaning those up against the back of our fireworks stand. Then I thought I need sparklers. So I also printed out a very tiny image of sparklers. And I'm going to glue that onto a popsicle stick and cut that down to size as well. Because we can't have a fireworks stand without sparklers, right? I was trying to think of any of my favorite fireworks that we need to have on display here on the fireworks stand. Now I want to make sure these things don't just kind of like fall all over the place. So I am going to attach them in here with hot glue to kind of keep them in place. And this was such a fun DIY to put together. I'd really encourage you to make this. And you can definitely make it your own by kind of adding your favorite fireworks. The little packages of like sparklers and the firecrackers and stuff, really super cute. Once I get them all glued down, I think this is ready to go. What do you guys think about our little beachside fireworks stand? Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to distress the top. You know I'm not going to let it go a little bit undistressed, right? So I just use my ivory brush and distress my awning and kind of like where I put like the sparklers and the rockets on the top, just to make that look kind of coastal as well. And that is definitely the final touch. Here it is, our fireworks stand. I love it with the firework background back there. I think that really makes it look so cute. And I just love this DIY. And I hope you do too. Okay, I wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about my Facebook group. I have it linked below. I would love to see what you're working on. You can share photos over there and see what everyone else is making as well as find out when I have new videos. I also have a Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest. And my handle is Crafty Beach on YouTube on all of those. Okay, let's keep crafting. I want to make 3 little signs, 3 little shelf sitter signs using some of these shore living wood shapes from the Dollar Tree because of course we're going to go coastal, but also patriotic, right? So I'm going to do a sea turtle, a starfish, and a seahorse. Just trying to determine 1 or 2. I found 3 little signs from the Dollar Tree that were all the same size. They're not actually the same sign, but they are the same size. And I thought we could do red, white, and blue on those. And we could also do some stars with some of these star stickers that we found from the Dollar Tree. Now, on this one, I'm going to do a little bit different strategy than we did before. I thought we could just peel off the backing of these stars and actually just paint the stars and see if that was easier, and I think it probably was. So I painted like a whole sheet of them that ivory color to give me some white stars. I'm also going to do like red, white, and blue signs. So I'm going to paint this first one ivory color. And just enough coats of chalk paint to kind of cover up any design that was on there to give myself a nice background for the white sign. And these are simply going to be little shelf sitter signs that you can sit on your shelf. These would also be really cute for a tier tray. This second one, I'm going to paint this bright red crimson color. I thought since I have all that writing on that side, I probably should do a coat of ivory first to kind of mask that writing instead of just trying to go over it with red. And while I'm painting the red sign, I'm also going to do another sheet of the star stickers. This time I'm going to paint them red, so I just paint them red along with our little red sign. And I just do enough coats on both of those to get good coverage. Red can be a little bit tricky. So that looks pretty good. We can start working on our blue sign. Again, I'm using that agave light blue color in chalk paint and going all over that so we can continue that fun red, white, and blue color scheme that we're doing for these DIYs. Some of the DIYs we're going to do today, though, where I'm going to show you more of a traditional blue too, so you can see what those DIYs look like too with a coastal feel. Now it's time to figure out what to do with our little sea creatures. The only thing I don't like about these is they are ornaments, so they do have holes in them. So you do have to make sure you cover those up if you're going to use them for something like this. So I'm just using some Dollar Tree spackle and trying to fill those in. Now I kind of want to do contrasting colors. So for the little seahorse, I'm going to paint that the agave blue. That will go nicely on the white sign. And then for a contrasting color for our sea turtle, we're going to paint it ivory. That'll be a nice contrasting color against the red. And then the starfish ivory as well, just because, well, no, I changed my mind. I decided to do red on that one to go on the blue sign, just because I did want red, white, and blue. And the starfish does have a little pattern on there of little dots all over that you might still be able to see there through the paint. Just a fun little detail. Now for the stars. So we have the red sign, and these are the little stars that we painted ivory. It did work well. What I noticed though is that I did have a little bleeding along the outside. So as I pull one out, I just kind of make sure that I pull off any extra paint. Maybe I painted a little bit too much paint on them. I'm not sure, but I'm just gonna kind of alternate them all over, kind of in an alternating pattern there into little rows. So we have like the red and white stars instead of the red and white stripes, just kind of a little fun take on the flag. And I distress it with some ivory as well to make it look nice and coastal. I do go over it with Mod Podge too to seal down those little star stickers to make sure that they stay in place. Now for the white sign, I'm going to distress it with blue since I can't really distress it with ivory. And so I just do that all over, and then we're going to use red stars on this one, so it's going to be white and red stars too instead of red and white stripes. We're going to make the stripes on the actual blue sign just for fun. And so I'm going to line these up exactly how I did the other sign, like 3 along the sides, 3 along the top, and then just kind of fill in all of the gap pieces kind of halfway in between. And I do think that was easier than trying to weed it out for making a stencil. And then I seal those with Mod Podge as well. Now for the blue sign, I said we were going to do blue and white stripes instead of red and white stripes. So I'm just going to use some painter's tape And we're also going to make kind of some interesting shape, like kind of like a pinstripe instead of a wide stripe, just to mix it up a little bit, some more. And I just paint those on with ivory. I'm also using that same ivory to kind of distress on the sides as well as I go along, and we just have a fun little stripe pattern. I do go over it with a second coat to make sure that my stripes are nice and bright. And I distress the front with some ivory as well to give it that coastal touch. Now we can start putting these together. I was trying to remember which one goes with which. I do want to distress them too to give it that coastal farmhouse vibe. So I'm using alternating colors. For the white, I'm going to distress in blue. And for the red, I distress in white. And for the blue, I distress in white too. And then I decided you could kind of see those little spots on the starfish, so we might as well add that as a touch. So I'm just going to use a white paint pen and kind of color those in just to provide a little bit more detail to our little starfish one. These were so fun to put together. I love the different takes on the stars and stripes and the different colors, and adding the coastal little characters as well. You know, I love to make every holiday coastal, and so this is a fun way to do it. So kind of laying them out how they're going to be, trying to make sure everything is dry before we put them together. And then we're simply going to hot glue our little sea creatures onto the front of these three little shelf sitter signs. So our little ivory turtle, our little red and white starfish. It's going to be a nice contrast against that blue and white stripe. And then our little blue seahorse for the last one. So cute and so inexpensive to put together. These are kind of a lightweight sign, but they definitely sit nicely on my shelf. You can just kind of sit them on their side. And this is how they look. I display mine all together on one shelf of my cabinet. And I think they're so fun and whimsical for the 4th of July or patriotic decor. Okay, the next one I'm going to kind of do a Kirkland dupe. I found this table runner at Kirkland, and I thought, ooh, we could do like a coastal take on that one. So I found just like a generic star pattern for a flag, and I took it to my Cricut so I can make a stencil, and kind of showing you how I brought it in. And I can go in and remove any of the areas I don't want it to cut out. Just kind of a way that you can kind of design your own thing. And instead of using, because I want these stars to be a little bit larger, so basically I'm just trying to make an American flag star stencil that I can make my own little table runner and make it look like a flag. But we're going to do this one in a coastal colors. Now I have to use my long Cricut mat, and I'm actually going to use my stencil. I'm just going to use some cheap Dollar Tree vinyl to make the stencil on this one, just because I'm gonna have like the stars that I'm gonna like put on there, and so it can just be something that I want to throw away. And this is not a color that I use often, so kind of like a scrap vinyl that we're gonna use to make little stars, kind of like a larger version of the star stickers that we did before. Then I found this little cotton runner from the party section at Target. It was only a couple of dollars. It was pretty cheap. It was like in their party aisle. And it is fabric. It's this like ivory color. And I think we're going to be able to make this work. So we're just going to lay this out on my table. I kind of constructed this on my table, and I probably shouldn't have, because I did get paint on my table, so I did have to clean it up. But lesson learned. And so I'm going to go ahead and peel off that vinyl. I'm actually going not to be using that part as a stencil. I'm actually using these stars, kind of like we did before when we used the little stars because I want white stars and the fabric is already white. And so that is what we're going to do. I'm going to use transfer paper to lay that star pattern on the top of this little table runner. And I had one star try to escape, but we found it. And then we can just lay that down, sticking all of that vinyl down to it. And then we can paint over like the blue part of our flag on that, and give us that blue and white star pattern. Now, Dollar Tree vinyl, again, super challenging. I probably shouldn't have used it for this project, but I kind of wanted something that was scrap vinyl that I wouldn't mind just throwing away. So I just removed all of my transfer paper. Now, I was a little concerned that there might be a little bit of bleeding since this is that cheap vinyl and I'm using it for a kind of reverse stencil. So I'm going to Mod Podge it first to seal that down, and hopefully I'll get a little bit sharper, cleaner lines when I go in to paint this area of the little table runner blue. And I really had fun in making this. This is probably the only table runner that I have DIY'd, but it was really fun to put together. So once I get that dry, I can go in and start painting this that agave blue color. I'm using that color for the blue part of the flag. And I'm just using a roller, a paint roller. I thought it would be easier since this is kind of a bigger project. It's going to go the entire length of my table. And I just go over all of my star stickers to give me a blue pattern on there, hopefully with a bunch of white stars behind it. I do go over with a couple coats, and I am using chalk paint. I do find chalk paint works really well on fabric. I've actually used it on outdoor cushions and stuff like that to kind of change the color of stuff. And with that, it works well. It does get a little rough though. You do have to sand it down to make it softer. This being on the table, it doesn't really matter too much. Now we can just go in and weed off all of our star stickers, and it worked pretty good. There was a tiny bout of bleeding, but nothing I can't touch up pretty easily. And so I just go in with my Cricut weeder and remove all of those stars. And I have a beautiful star pattern. It looks really cool. And I'm just going to touch up a few areas. I somehow got a little bit of blue paint on the rest of my runner, I noticed. But that's okay. I'll make that be where a stripe is. We'll never know it's there, right? So I'm going to tape off the blue part, and then we can start taping off the stripes with some of that Dollar Tree painter's tape. And I use an actual little piece of the painter's tape for spacing on each end of this. It's kind of hard to show you the entire thing because it was pretty long. And I just put a spacer at the top and the bottom, just moving it per stripe so I get a good pattern. And again, I did have to cover up a small spot on mine, so that is why I did my stripes the way I did them. And then we're going to go in with some of that crimson red chalk paint to do our flag stripes. I'm going to use a roller on this one as well. And just start rolling this on the fabric. Kind of change my angle there so maybe you can see the whole thing. And we're going to have a little flag runner. This was really, it was kind of a bigger project, but it was still really easy to do. And it turned out really cute. So it's time to remove all of the painter's tape and reveal those beautiful little flag stripes we did on there. And we have a little personalized patriotic table runner. Perfect for a 4th of July party or just to display with your patriotic decor. And I love being able to do my own color scheme on there as well. And so that was a little Kirkland's dupe that we put in there. That's Coastal Patriotic. Now let's change up the blue color. Let's try doing more of a traditional color blue, but we can do that also with some coastal items. So this is one of the little sailboat signs from the Shore Living line. They had this one the past 2 years. This year they switched it up to a different one, but you could probably get about the same effect with this one. We're going to dismantle most of it anyway. I'm going to remove the little foam sticker on there. They also had it in white, I was showing you. I am going to use the little blue part they have on there just because why not? It's going to go with 4th of July, right? And then I found this great fabric at the Dollar Tree. It is the blue with white stars, like a traditional like flag pattern. And I thought we could use that to maybe cover like one of the sails to make it look like a little patriotic sailboat to go with my decor. So I'm just going to try to cut down a little piece that's going to be big enough for one sail. And then I'm going to flip it over, kind of lay my sailboat on there where I can kind of draw like the pattern for the fabric out on the back with just an ink pen. You kind of can't get to all of it, but you can get a pretty good idea of where you're going to need to cut that. So I'm just going to use a ruler to kind of fill in the blanks. And then we can just cut out a little star. You could also use, you know, if you had like a blue and white star scrapbook paper, or sometimes they have like those little paper party banners at the Dollar Tree that kind of have this pattern as well. But anytime I can use fabric on a DIY, I love it because it does provide a fun little texture. So we're going to cover up kind of that busy sail with just like a more simple star pattern. So I just do a thick layer of Mod Podge all over my sail, and then we can glue down the fabric, sealing that on. And it's okay if some of the fabric or the Mod Podge kind of seeps through. It should dry clear. I usually like to kind of go over it with a baby wipe, kind of encourage it to kind of come through the fabric a little bit. And then I'm going to just Mod Podge over the top of it as well, just to make sure that it stays secure and it has kind of an even sheen with the matte Mod Podge. Kind of wanted to go with like a coastal feel. Now for the base of the sailboat, I kind of need something that's gonna make it like stand up. So I'm just gonna use like one of those little wood block signs from the Dollar Tree. This is kind of a shorter version. You can use whatever you've got, any kind of craft wood or anything like that. And then we're gonna go with driftwood for the boat. So you guys know I love the driftwood from Target. I get it like back in their like home decor section. It's called a vase filler. It comes in a box like this. And they're $10 a box, but they do go on sale. So I always try to stock up when they go on sale. And some of you guys have been using wood chips for this. And I haven't tried that yet. So that's a great option as well. You'll have to check our Facebook group to see an adorable seahorse made out of wood chips instead of the driftwood. And so we're just going to glue driftwood all over the bottom of this. It's okay if it makes it a little bit longer. I'm just trying to cover up the entire bottom part of this boat where it says beach with driftwood. And whenever you're working with these driftwood pieces, they're all different shapes and sizes. So it's a little bit like putting it together a puzzle. And it's okay to overlap and use some pieces together just to make it work. And I do want it to look, you know, kind of like a 3D, like full boat base with the sails being thinner, right? So I do build out a little bit with the driftwood too, just to kind of make it more three-dimensional. So just overlapping my driftwood in kind of a pattern that I'm happy with and just hot gluing that on. Now this driftwood from the Dollar Tree is kind of a light driftwood. You can always stain it if you like that better. And then for letters, I found these little red felt letters at the Dollar Tree. I thought these would be perfect for 4th of July. I'll just spell out USA with these little peel and stick felt letters on the blue sail that was already on there. So super patriotic. And it kind of works because like a sailboat would have like writing on it like that. If it was representing a country, like maybe at a boat race or something. So I'm just going to sit those on the existing blue that was on there. Now I kind of wanted to make a flag for the top. This is what I was talking about. Like you could use that to make the sail. See? that's also got stars on it, and these are available, it seems like, every year at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use one of the red ones with the white stars just to make a fun little flag for the top, just a little contrasting color, and it's going to cover the little hole in the sign. Now, I was worried it wasn't going to be quite stiff enough, so I used one of the white ones too, and I'm just going to Mod Podge them together because it is like a thin paper, just to make it a little bit thicker. So we'll keep it shape, and I just hot glue that over the hole with a cute little star flag up top. Now here's the base that we're going to use to stand this up. I don't really have to do anything to it, just attach it to the back. That's going to make it stand up. I'm just going to use hot glue to do that. Super easy. And I like working with those signs from the Dollar Tree because they're nice and thick and heavy. So it's going to kind of weigh it down as well. So we have a little driftwood USA sailboat. I told you, that driftwood is kind of light, so I decided to go back and distress mine with some antique wax by Waverly. It's going to give it a stain. I think it brings out a lot of the character in the wood and makes it look a little bit more like driftwood, because driftwood's not going to be super bleached out all the time. It's going to be like a variation of colors. So I just go over it with antique wax by Waverly and a brush and a baby wipe and kind of just distress that until I'm happy with it. I also thought it kind of needed a pole here at the top of the sailboat, kind of breaking up some of that blue. So I use a Dollar Tree dowel and I just cut that down to size, and we're just going to attach that on there. It's just going to kind of make it look more like a traditional sailboat. And just a fun, whimsical way to DIY one of those sailboats from the Dollar Tree. Again, you could totally do that with the ones they have this year as well. Just be super creative and think patriotic. I displayed mine here with a tray, and that is going to be the next Coastal Patriotic DIY that we're going to put together. I just picked up a generic tray from the Target dollar spot. This one was $5. It's a great place to get the trays, but you can also get them at the thrift store as well. Whenever you can start with an existing tray, it's gonna half your work's done, right? So I want to keep like the wood border on there, but I want to make the tray look like a flag. I want to kind of do like a coastal take on a flag, and by painting the back of it. Now, I didn't have any chalk paint, so I'm going to actually make some with some calcium carbonate, water, and acrylic paint. I get this calcium carbonate on Amazon. I believe this brand might not be available. It wasn't available the last time I checked, but I'm sure you can find another kind. I think I might have a couple kinds linked in my Amazon shop below. But I will try to find the recipe to this as well. It's super easy. Acrylic paint, water, and calcium carbonate. And this is just some white acrylic I got on clearance at Target, and mix it all together. We're going to have some DIY chalk paint. Now, I kind of wanted chalk paint because I want to cover up that barbecue like a boss that's written on there, and I kind of just want a blank canvas. So now that we have it all taped off, we have our chalk paint mixed. We're just going to paint that all over until we get pretty good coverage on the tray. I just want to make sure that you can't read any of that writing, and these are going to provide the white stripes for our flag. Now I'm going to use some of this red burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. They have these in the fall. I always try to stock up of any burlap they have. If you can't find this, you could always use red ribbon as well. Or I guess you could paint some burlap ribbon red, because you're probably going to want your red stripes for your flag. I just thought the burlap would give it more of a coastal feel. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove my painter's tape. And then I thought that my stripes were going to be a little too big for this size tray. And so I'm kind of cutting the fibers on that rivet, and I'm going to try just cutting it in half, just going with the grain so I can make like some smaller stripes so I can get more stripes on my tray. I'm really pleased with all the burlap products that Dollar Tree now has, with like the rolled burlap, the larger rolls of it, like so many varieties. I love crafting with burlap. I always think it looks coastal. And so that worked well. So we're going to cut down some more strips the same size by cutting them in half and then cutting them all the same length until we have enough stripes to go all the way down our tray. Now we're just going to attach those with Mod Podge. So I'm going to kind of go all over, even though I only need them for the striped areas. It's just going to make it easier. It will also seal the paint from behind. And we're going to start with a red stripe, and then we're going to skip a white section for a white stripe, and then just keep gluing these down until we get red stripes all over. I actually kind of wanted to work on centering mine, so I kind of did like the middle of the tray where the handles were after doing the top one. And then I fill in the ribbon in between. That way my spacing was a little bit better. And then we're going to do the same thing down here on the bottom. I'm not going to do like a blue section with stars for the flag. I'm going to do something different for blue, something coastal or nautical, to give you that blue against your red and white stripes. And that looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Trying to wipe off some of my excess Mod Podge there and make sure those are all good and sealed down. Now, I told you I was going to do something different, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to use one of the little blue anchors from the Dollar Tree. It's that blue, like kind of royal blue flag color, and just kind of sit it in the bottom like that to provide the blue touch against the flag. I think it's a nice contrast. I think it looks really fun sitting next to our little coastal sailboat. And you get that flag feel, but it's kind of a more abstract, like a blue anchor against a red and white burlap tray background. And I always love decorating with those trays. You can stand them on their side and they're so cute. Okay, the next DIY is one of these little galvanized metal lighthouses from the Shore Living line at the Dollar Tree. They have these again this year, and I know a lot of you guys have trouble trying to figure out what to do with these, and I'm going to show you how you can paint them. So I just covered the hole in the top with some masking tape. That's kind of the best way to cover a hole in the galvanized metal. And then I am going over the whole thing with white chalk paint. I think the chalk paint's going to help grip it to that galvanized metal and give me a fun background to paint with. I want to make this like a standing lighthouse decor for my coastal patriotic feel. And so we're going to paint it like a patriotic little lighthouse. So I first started out with like a blue paint pen, and I'm just going to start outlining the different parts here of the lighthouse. I kind of want the top of it to be blue. I tried like painting it in with the blue lighthouse, kind of going over the window, but as you can see, it kind of gave you a choppy feel with the paint pen. So we will touch that up, but I got a good start. And for some reason, my masking tape did not hold up, so I do kind of have a hole there on the top, but that's okay. So I thought some navy blue acrylic would touch that up and make it look a lot nicer, but kind of gave me a base of where I can paint. And so we're going to paint the top part of that navy just using a small brush, and that seemed to work better than the paint pen. So I'm going to use red acrylic, and we're just going to start like just painting stripes. I'm not using any painter's tape or anything like that. I'm just using a small brush and kind of dragging it across the lighthouse, kind of at a diagonal pattern into some red and white patriotic stripes. And they don't have to be perfect. That's going to kind of add to the decor. Then I'm going to use, I do have a red paint pen as well, so I'm going to use that to kind of outline the edges. I thought that would be at least work well for that part of it, right? So we're gonna go around all of the edges of this lighthouse. It's looking really cute. And then I have a white paint pen, so I'm gonna go back and put some white stars all over the blue top of the lighthouse, kind of doing an alternate pattern, just drawing stars on there and trying to fill that in. They do have windows, so I'm kind of like trying to work around the window the best that I can. And then I go back and just kind of paint all of the windows navy. It's going to be a nice contrasting color against the red and white stripes down here. And otherwise, you're not really going to be able to see them. If you don't paint them, I'm just using a small brush. And they're kind of raised, so you know exactly where to paint them. And then I go back with that white paint pen after it's dry, and I just outline them a little bit just to clean that up too. And I think it's looking pretty patriotic. What do you guys think? And again, these are like the traditional flag colors if that is more your vibe, but still with a coastal feel. And then I'm going to use one of these giant Jenga blocks from Five Below, but you can use any kind of wood block you've got if you want to make yours standing as well. And I just glue that to the back. And now we have a little standing lighthouse. And I don't know why I didn't take individual pictures of these. It's a little grainy there, but you can kind of see what it looks like next to some of my other decor. I did that on some videos last year. I don't know why I didn't take individual pictures. Okay, the next DIY, we're gonna take one of these little ship wheels from the Shore Living line at Dollar Tree. They have these again this year, and we're gonna just kind of make it a patriotic decor, but not real loud. We're gonna stain it. So I use Antique Wax by Waverly and a foam brush, and we're gonna go all over the raw wood of the ship wheel and give it a nice stain. I love that. It brings out the wood grain of it, makes it look more high end. And I'm actually gonna use this as decor in the same cabinet as the DIYs that we've been making. And so this is gonna kind of be a standing decor as well. I just need to give it a good base stain here first. Once I get all the Antique Wax by Waverly on there, I'm just going to wipe off the excess with a baby wipe. And then we're going to use some of this 8-foot nautical rope jute from the Dollar Tree to decorate this a little bit more. Just going to remove the plastic from the ends. Then I thought it would be fun to do like the ship wheel part with the rope. And so I'm just attaching that with hot glue all along the wheel that we just stained. The reason I stain the whole thing is just it's easier, and any kind of like areas under the rope you might be able to see, you're going to want that to look stained too. So I go all the way around with hot glue, framing that out, and then once I get to the end, I just keep going, and we're going to try to fill in the ship wheel with the rope for this part. I've done different methods with this. I've done like twine on the handles. There's so many ideas that you can do to make these look a little bit more 3D because, you know, they are like a thin piece of wood. So I just keep going around with that same piece of rope until we fill in the wheel part. And it definitely gave it a coastal vibe. And I think the color of this rope works well too. I don't think I'm going to be able to fit the whole thing, so we're going to cut it off and glue it right here. Then I want it to be standing, so I'm going to use one of these little wood frames from the Crafter Square at the Dollar Tree and one of these little wood rings from the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree too. I'm going to use the stand, I just popped it off, and the ring part, I like to use that in the middle part of my ship wheel. Perfect size. And they have those, I think, in 2 different sizes. That one fits perfectly. And then I'm going to glue the base here at the bottom, right where the hanger on that was as well. Then I kind of decided that I wanted to give it some patriotic colors. So using a red paint pen, I'm going to go ahead and color in the little wood ring that we put in the middle. I don't know if it's easier to paint this before or after you attach it to the sign, but I'm doing it after. Trying not to get too much red paint on the ship wheel as I go. But we're going to make it work. I just wanted to add some red, white, and blue details to this to make it look a little patriotic to go with the patriotic decor. I'm also going to use the red paint pen, and we're going to paint the little base stand red as well. And you could always use acrylic paint or whatever for that as well, which I ended up doing because it just wasn't covering as good as I'd like. I'm going to clean up some of the fuzzies on the rope with just a lighter to make that look a little bit cleaner. And then I thought it needed some blue. So I'm going to use some of the Shore Living jute cord. It is like this navy blue and brown jute, like kind of braided together. I never really DIY with this a lot, but it actually worked well for 4th of July. And they have this again this year at the Shore Living line at Dollar Tree. And so I just cut off a piece large enough to go around the little red ring that we attached to the center. Then I'm also going to line the base with the blue and white twine as well. So I'm going to cut off another piece that is the perfect length for that. And I think that's going to be enough of a red, white, and blue touch to that to kind of give it a patriotic feel. All I need to do is attach it with a little hot glue. This is the first time that I made one of these ship wheels standing. I think it actually worked really well like that. So don't be afraid to switch up a hanging sign like this and make it standing. It's pretty easy to do. And then just finishing up with the blue and white around the red ring in the middle. Super cute. I love how this turned out. And let me show you how it looks. Again, sorry for a little bit of a grainy picture, but I displayed this with our 4th of July decor. Not super patriotic, but maybe a little bit on a smaller scale with the red, white, and navy, but lots of rope and wood as well. Okay, I want to make 3 more shelf sitters, so I thought we could use the red, white, and blue Shore Living line signs. They have these again this year, the red sailboat, the blue anchor, and the white shell. And then I'm going to use some of these little misspelled signs from the Dollar Tree. I think my Dollar Tree had to stop carrying them. But basically, they're just wood block signs. You could always use something like this. I think that might work as well. I like them because you can just pop the sign off of them and you have a little heavy-duty burlap sign. And I thought it would be cute to try to cut just the fun part, you know, of those long, skinny signs off. And then you could have a cutout for a sign. You know, that's kind of a hard thing to craft, is a cutout like that for a DIY sign. And so this is just a fun way to kind of do it. So I just take, you know, I popped the sign off my burlap, and then I am just going to try to use my square ruler and try to cut this down to size using the sign for reference so I know how big to make it. And at first I was going to try to reduce cutting. So let me show you how that looks like if you want to reduce cutting. I'm just going to cut it where it will overlap the 3 sides of it. That way I only have to cut off the top and the bottom. And because I really only need the burlap to be behind the little cutout. I tried that at first to make cutting a little bit easier so you can kind of see what that option would look like. But then I didn't really want it to be rectangle. I kind of wanted it to be more square. So I decided to cut it a little bit more. A lot of you guys have asked what I use to cut my items. And I did buy myself a Ryobi miter saw at Lowe's, and I love that thing. But you know, you can always use a little miter saw in a box. They're super inexpensive. So I'm actually going to cut it down to the size of my sign just to make me happier. And I like that better. Now I'm going to use that for reference to try to cut down my anchor. Now I kind of made a mistake right there because the anchor is bigger than the sailboat. So see how close like the bottom came to that? Yeah, that's going to be a little close to cut there. Now when you peel that sign off these, they do have little tiny nails sticking up, so be careful. As you can see, that anchor goes all the way to the bottom, but that's okay. I think we're going to make it work. I just kind of cut off a little piece of blue from the sign that's left over to try to fill in the gap. I guess I shouldn't have used the first sign for reference. I probably should have used the sign because I didn't realize the anchor was going to be a little bit bigger, but that's okay. And then this one is the white shell. Whenever I see these red, white, and blue signs together, I always think 4th of July. And, you know, I don't really like them as the long, skinny sign, unless you're going to add to them, of course, and make them thicker and stuff like that. But this is a fun idea to use those little cutouts to make something smaller. So we have our red, white, and our blue. You know your girl's going to distress it a little bit. Can't resist. So I use a little white acrylic and a chunky brush, and we're going to distress the red and the blue to kind of give them a little bit more of a coastal farmhouse vibe. But see, you can definitely do like the red, white, and blue with a more traditional color and still get your coastal beach vibe on. I'm going to distress the blue as well. And I did wipe off a lot of the distress. I just wanted a slight distress to break up, you know, the blue on the red and blue on the sign from being also one color. And then the white I can't really distress with white, so I'm going to distress it with a little antique wax by Waverly. Kind of dry brushing a little bit of that on, just for a little bit more character. I just don't like how solid color those are, but I liked the red, white, and blue. Just wanted to add a little bit of character. And then we can attach these to our little signs. The burlap makes a perfect background. If you want to make your own little burlap sign, you could totally use the burlap rolls from the Dollar Tree. It provides a great backdrop for the cutout for sure. And my little repair job for my anchor. And I'm just going to hot glue those on to our signs. Super easy. I did get these all together and I didn't really like their shade of blue compared to the blue that we were using on the other DIYs. And I am going to kind of display them all together. So I do go in and distress it a little bit more with like a navy color to kind of tie it in with more of the darker blue that we've been using on these DIYs. Then for the shell, I thought we would add like a number 4. So using one of these little galvanized numbers from the Dollar Tree, I thought we could add a little coastal 4 right in the middle of the shell. Just a fun little whimsical touch. And I also wanted to add a little color, so I am just going to paint mine red. And I just hot glue that right on there. I like to use numbers and seasonal decor whenever I can. I always think it's fun. And this is how they turned out. Again, sorry about the grainy picture. I don't know why. I do have some video footage of this too. I'll try to include that in the final reveal so that you can get a clearer look of some of the little fuzzier ones here. But they look super cute. All together on a shelf. The next DIY is using one of the Shore Living stencils. It says From Sea to Shining Sea, and just a thrift sign. Actually, I think this is an old sign that I had that I don't really use. It's a nice chunky wood sign, and I think it's going to be the perfect size for a little patriotic sign. I'm going to paint it this kind of a darker royal blue color, kind of all over. I thought that'd be a good background, and then we could paint the stencil on the front with white. Now, have you guys seen the Shore Living stencils in your store this year? I've gotten them the past 2 years at my Dollar Trees, and I still have some left over from last year, but I have not seen them this year, and I don't know if I missed them or if they just didn't bring them back. But I love them. I hope they brought them back. So I do a good coat all over, trying to cover up all of the writing and everything that was on there. And I thought, this is perfect from sea to shining sea. You know, that's perfect for patriotic. That's the same saying that we had on those coastal books too. So I just lay it on there, and I'm using one of those little stencil daubers from the Dollar Tree and going all over with some white chalk paint to give me a nice contrast. Trying not to get any on my sign. It's always a good idea to tape those off. I probably should have used a little spray adhesive on the back of this stencil because it does just kind of sit on there. But it does a pretty good job on this. And I'm just going to have it all be white. I'm not going to do like any other colors on that. So I give it a quick dry and peel off my stencil. Isn't that cute? And it's perfect for 4th of July. The colors are perfect. And the saying is perfect too. Now, I wanted to kind of add something a little bit fun to this one. And so I thought a little boat would be cute. And I picked up one of these little tugboats that's red, white, and blue from the fairy garden section at Dollar Tree. And some of these little flag cake toppers. And I thought we could attach a flag to our boat. I know a lot of people do that here around the 4th of July. And I was just trying to figure out where to attach it. And I'm just going to glue the little cake topper toothpick here to the back of my boat, and then we're just going to display this on top of that sign. I think they're going to work really well together. And this is how it turned out, our little from sea to shining sea sign. Again, definitely stick around for the final reveal because I think you're going to get a little bit better footage of some of these. Okay, I wanted to do like a garland for the top, and so I thought I would do one of these wood bead garlands from the Shore Living at Dollar Tree. This one is the one with the ship wheel, so I thought it would go great with the ship wheel that we just DIY'd. They are kind of square, so they're kind of weird, but we're going to try to make this the right size that I need for mine. I also had like some broken ones. So I'm kind of like piecing together two of them. They're not very long. And they do have these again this year at the Shore Living line. They're probably still available because, I don't know, they're just not very popular. I don't think people really want to go to all the trouble of painting them and stuff like that. But, you know, we're going to leave the wood beads like natural. And we're just going to paint the ship wheel. That's going to be the easiest way. So once I've got all of my damaged ones out of there and got it the right length, I think we can paint it. And so I just go over the little ship wheel with a small brush and some of that darker blue that we were using. And then I'm going to do white for one. So we're going to do like red, white, and blue for these little ship wheels. And this is just going to be a fun little touch for the top of my cabinet. I always like to display this with seasonal decor. And so the earlier projects were for my cabinet 2 years ago, and this color scheme was my theme for last year. So I kind of wanted to add some things to the side of that. It was kind of boring. And so this is just one of the yard stakes from the Dollar Tree. That's the kind of the same color scheme. It's got an anchor and a ship wheel, and it says ahoy. So I'm just going to take the little wood or the little metal stake off the back and just tie this up with some twine, and we can kind of hang this on the side of that garland, that would be garland. Just by knotting that off and making a little hanger, just to add a little bit more interest. And remember this guy, we're going to use one of these red and white striped buoys as well. And this is how it looks hanging at the top of the cabinet. And a little closer view of those, and they're not that much trouble if you just want to paint the little ornaments that's on them. Otherwise, it's going to be a whole deal to paint all the beads. But I think it turned out really cute. Hey guys, I wanted to tell you about memberships on my channel. I've introduced them, and for $4.99 a month, you're going to be able to support my channel here. You're going to get early access to my videos, ad-free, and you're going to get other perks as well as shout outs. And check this out. We have 7 members now for Crafty Beach Bums, and I would like to give a huge thank you to Coastal Couple, I Am Mojo Jojo, Karen O'Haron, Leanne, Mary Banks, Pamela Bergeron, and Sally Cooper. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. I really appreciate you. And it is time for the final reveal. I'm going to show you all of the photos that I have of these items. And again, I'll show you the extra footage that might be a little bit clearer. And don't forget to like this video, comment your favorite Coastal Patriotic DIY below, and don't forget to subscribe. We just hit 16,000 subscribers. I'm trying to get to 20. Thank you so much. If you would like to watch more Crafty Beach, YouTube thinks you might enjoy this video right here.